When I moved into my lakefront cottage on Mirror Lake, I thought I'd found the peace I'd been chasing after 15 years as a detective. The job had worn me down. Hunting murderers, drug traffickers, and white-collar crooks left me craving quiet mornings by the water, coffee in hand, watching the mist rise. The house was perfect, a cozy two-bedroom with a small dock stretching into the lake's glassy surface. The previous owner, a meticulous retired professor, had left everything spotless, and when I signed the deed 3 weeks ago, the realtor raved about the close-knit community. She conveniently forgot to mention the neighborhood's self-appointed overlord, Charlotte Hensley, known to everyone as Karen, for reasons that would soon hit me like a freight train. It was a crisp September morning when Charlotte first appeared. I was on my porch, savoring the silence, when the sharp clack of heels on gravel broke the calm. She strode around the corner like she owned my property, dressed in a stark white blazer, clutching a leather portfolio that screamed money. Her smile was pure calculation, no warmth. "You must be the new neighbor," she said, extending a manicured hand. "I'm Charlotte Hensley, president of the Mirror Lake HOA. Welcome." Her grip was like a vice, her eyes scanning my yard like she was casing a crime scene. I introduced myself as Nathan Cole, shook her hand, and braced for trouble. What began as polite chatter quickly morphed into a high-pressure pitch. Charlotte extolled the HOA's virtue: security, upkeep, community, but it felt more like a mafia shakedown than a neighborly welcome. "Nathan," she said, somehow knowing my name without me telling her. "Living outside our community can be challenging. We take care of each other here." The way she said, "take care," sounded more like surveillance than support. When I declined, explaining my house was free of HOA rules, her smile twitched, then snapped back into place. That's when things turned bizarre. Charlotte whipped out a measuring tape and started checking my grass height, muttering about standards and how my neglected lawn could ruin property values. I stood there, a detective who'd faced down killers, now being lectured on flower varieties and neighborhood aesthetics by a woman I'd known for 10 minutes. The absurdity was almost funny until I caught a glimpse of her phone as she snapped photos of my substandard shrubs. Her wallpaper showed a handsome man with graying hair and warm eyes. "That's my late husband, Dr. Edward Hensley," she said, noticing my glance. "He passed 2 years ago." Her tone was off, and the man in the photo looked too vibrant to have died soon after. My instincts, sharpened by years of police work, screamed that something was wrong. Then she hit me with a curveball. "You wouldn't know anything about the Hensley case, would you?" she asked, her eyes drilling into mine. I shook my head, but she pressed on, "Of course not. It was just a tragic accident. Edward fell into the lake while fishing. Nothing suspicious." Her insistence on "nothing suspicious" made me suspect everything. People don't emphasize the absence of foul play unless they're hiding something. She handed me a glossy HOA brochure, warning that cooperation was vital, and strutted off. The brochure read like a security firm's ad, not a neighborhood pamphlet, with creepy testimonials about protection and safety. Standing on my porch, I knew Charlotte wasn't just after my lawn. She wanted something far bigger. The next morning, I was watering my garden when those heels clicked again. Charlotte's fake charm was gone, replaced by a cold, predatory stare. "Mr. Cole," she snapped, gripping a clipboard, "I gave you a chance to join us. Since you've refused, you'll face the consequences." I turned off the hose and faced her. "Mrs. Hensley, I bought this place to avoid HOAs. I'm fine as is." Her jaw clenched, and she positioned herself just outside my property line, close enough to intimidate but not trespass. "You don't get it," she hissed. "People who defy our standards regret it." Before I could respond, she dialed 911. Right there, in broad daylight, she put on a performance worthy of a stage. "There's a stranger harassing residents," she told the dispatcher, her voice quivering with fake fear. "He's been lurking, taking photos, and got aggressive when I confronted him." I'm terrified. I watched, half stunned, half impressed, as she painted me as a dangerous intruder. A patrol car pulled up minutes later, and Officer Elena Ramirez stepped out, her sharp eyes taking in the scene. She listened as Charlotte spun her tale of my threatening behavior. Then Ramirez turned to me. "Sir, can I see some ID?" I pulled out my wallet and flipped it open, not to my license, but to my detective badge. The effect was electric. Ramirez's eyes widened. Detective Cole? I know your work from the Grayson case. Charlotte's smug facade crumbled, her mouth flapping like a fish out of water. Oh my goodness, she stammered, forcing a smile. I didn't know you were law enforcement. A misunderstanding. Ramirez leaned in and whispered. She's called in 12 suspicious person reports in 6 months. Always about people who know too much. Sound familiar? That sealed that Charlotte wasn't just a nosy neighbor. She was hiding a secret worth killing for. That night, I started digging. County records showed Dr. Edward Hensley died 2 years ago in an accidental drowning. The investigation was Flamcino crime scene photos, and the death certificate was signed by Dr. Patricia Wells, Charlotte's old nursing colleague. A $2 million insurance payout screamed motive. Then I found a work order from Garcia Plumbing, who'd done repairs at the Hensley house weeks before Edward's death. I visited Miguel Garcia, the owner's son, who remembered the job well. Mrs. Hensley was paranoid, he said. Kept asking if we could hear upstairs while we worked in the basement. The night before Dr. Hensley died, I heard them screaming her about not being left with nothing, him about living with lies. It was intense. Then Miguel showed me a video from his phone, recorded while testing a spigot near their dock. The timestamp was 2 hours before Edward's supposed death. A figure was pushed into the lake, but swam to shore and vanished into the woods. I didn't know what to do, Miguel said. The case was closed, and she's been good for business. But that doesn't look like a drowning. My heart pounded. If Edward was alive, Charlotte wasn't just a bully, she was a mastermind. Charlotte's attacks escalated. She filed a $50,000 lawsuit, claiming I'd caused emotional distress and property damage with my menacing behavior. She spread rumors that I was a disgraced cop forced into retirement. Then came the petty complaints. My car parked at a 2-degree angle, my shower singing violating noise ordinances, my evening lights straining the grid. Each move was designed to make me look unhinged, so any accusations against her would seem like retaliation. But she miscalculated. I'd installed hidden cameras around my property and found a smart speaker syncing with devices in the neighborhood, including one planted on my land. With some legally dubious hacking, I accessed Charlotte's recordings. One was chilling. The detectives asking too many questions. She told someone named Patricia, likely Dr. Wells. We need to move faster. Edward can't stay hidden forever. Another caught her muttering. He thinks he's clever, but he doesn't know what I've done to win. If he keeps digging, he'll pay. Her voice was venomous, and I knew I was up against a predator. The lawsuit collapsed when I tipped off her law firm about her false reports and possible fraud. They dropped her fast. Then I found a lead. Charlotte owned a cabin 15 miles up the lake, bought right after Edward's death. I drove there, saw fresh tire tracks, and called out as a detective. A desperate voice answered, "Don't tell her you found me. She'll kill me for real." Dr. Edward Hensley emerged, a broken shadow of the man in Charlotte's photos. He revealed she'd been poisoning him for months, using her nursing skills to mimic illness. When he found the poison, she forced him to fake his death or face a worse fate. He'd been hiding ever since, collecting evidence, medical records, financial documents, recordings of her bragging about past murders. We planned a trap. I hosted a neighborhood barbecue, inviting everyone, including Ramirez and her off-duty colleagues. I sent Charlotte a groveling invite, praising her leadership. She arrived, basking in her victory, charming the crowd with tales of her grieving widow life. At 3 o'clock, as she waxed poetic about Edward's tragic fishing accident, I returned with Edward by my side. The crowd froze. Charlotte's face went white, her composure shattered. "Hello, Charlotte," Edward said. "Let's talk about that night at the lake." Her breakdown was explosive. "You're dead," she screamed, then confessed to poisoning him, faking his death, and killing 2 prior husbands for insurance. Ramirez arrested her as she ranted about my lawn and parking, even as handcuffs snapped shut. In court, her lawyer tried to paint Edward as a liar and me as a desperate has-been, but Judge Evelyn Harper revealed she'd been tracking Charlotte for a decade, linking her to patient abuse and suspicious deaths. Edward's testimony and my recordings buried her. She got life without parole for 3 murders, fraud, and conspiracy. Even in prison, Charlotte filed complaints about the facility's lawn care, still obsessed with control. Edward and I teamed up, solving 12 cold cases in a year, helping him heal through justice. Charlotte thought she could silence me, but she learned a hard lesson. A detective with evidence and a grudge is unstoppable. Sometimes, the weakest-looking player holds the winning card.